The wind was dry. The sky above was red and filled with black smoke. Burned buildings stood like skeletons. Alien bodies lay on the ground, some covered, most forgotten. The war had passed through this village like a storm. Nothing living remained. Or so it seemed. Jack, a human scout soldier, walked slowly through the wreckage. His boots crushed ash and broken glass. He had seen many battlefields. Too many. But something about this place felt different, silent, heavy, like the air itself was holding its breath. He passed a broken water pump, bent sideways from an explosion. A crushed toy lay beside it. A small ball, half burned. Then he heard it. Not a scream, not a shout, a soft whimper. Jack froze. His hand moved to the rifle on his back. He turned his head slowly. The sound was weak, almost lost in the wind. But it was real. He stepped carefully toward the ruins of a stone house. One wall was missing. The roof had fallen. In the corner, under a half-broken table, something moved. It was small. Curled up, shaking. Jack crouched down. His voice was low but calm. "Hey, are you hurt?" No answer. He moved closer. The shape under the table was a child, an alien child. A girl. Her skin was pale blue, covered in dirt and dust. Her dark eyes were wide with fear. She wore torn clothing, and her knees were scraped. Her lips trembled, but she didn't cry out. She just stared at him, silent, scared. Jack slowly took off his helmet and placed his rifle on the ground. He showed both his hands. "I'm not going to hurt you. It's okay, you're safe now." Still, she didn't move. He reached into his backpack and pulled out a protein bar. He opened the wrapper and placed it gently near her. The smell of food made her nose twitch. Carefully, she reached out with tiny fingers and pulled it into her hands. She bit it, then ate faster like she hadn't eaten in days. Jack's heart tightened. He remembered seeing refugees on Earth. Orphaned kids during the Great Collapse. He had that same look in their eyes. "What's your name?" he asked. She didn't answer. That's when she crawled out slowly, shakily, and grabbed his leg. She hugged it tightly, her head against his knee. No sound, just tears rolling down her cheeks, mixing with ash. Jack knelt down and wrapped his coat around her small frame. She was freezing. He whispered, "Don't worry, I got you." Hours passed. Jack contacted the recovery unit. A medic team was on its way. They were scanning the area for any survivors. He sat on the steps of a broken house, the little girl in his lap. She had fallen asleep, still holding his shirt in her hand. When the medics arrived, they were surprised. "A child? Here? We thought they evacuated this zone last week," one said. "She must have been hiding," Jack replied. "Alone, in this mess." The medics carefully took her and wrapped her in thermal blankets. Jack stood quietly as they carried her into the ship. Just before the doors closed, she looked at him again, those same big, wet eyes. She lifted her small hand and waved. He smiled and gave a small wave back. Then she was gone. Jack stood there for a long time, watching the sky. The village was dead again. Quiet again, but he couldn't forget her face. 3 days later, Jack sat alone in his outpost cabin. It was a cold night. He had made some soup, but he wasn't hungry. His mind kept going back to that moment, her hugging his leg, her tiny arms shaking. He didn't even know her name. Then a knock. It was soft, hesitant. Jack frowned. No one ever visited this far out at night. He grabbed his rifle and moved to the door. He opened it slowly. His eyes went wide. There she was, the alien girl. But this time, she wasn't alone. Behind her stood a tall alien woman, strong, graceful. But her face was filled with worry and sadness. She had her hands folded in front of her. The girl smiled up at Jack and took his hand. She kept asking for you," the woman said softly, her voice shaking. "She refused to eat. She cried and cried." Jack knelt down. "Hey, you're okay now," The girl didn't speak. She just hugged him again. Then the woman stepped forward. Her eyes were glassy. She took a deep breath. "My name is Lyra. I'm her mother," she said. "She told me everything, and I came to say thank you for saving her." Jack nodded slowly. "I just did what anyone would do." Lyra shook her head. "No, you did what no one else did." Then she looked straight into his eyes. And what she said next made Jack freeze. "Please, be my husband." The night was quiet, but Jack's heart was loud. The little alien girl sat beside his fire, wrapped in the same coat he gave her days ago. She looked calmer now, safe, but her small hand still held onto his dot. The tall alien woman, her mother, stood by the door, her eyes studying Jack's every move. Her name was Lyra. She was clearly tired, her face pale and her dress dusty. But she had the posture of someone strong, like she once carried pride, but had dropped it long ago. Jack finally broke the silence. "You said you're her mother?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, her name is Nia. She's only 5 cycles old." Jack looked down at the girl. Nia smiled up at him with a shy blink, as if his face was the only safe thing in the world. "She wouldn't." "Stop saying your name." "Well, not your name exactly," Lyra added. "She just kept whispering Papa." Jack froze. Lyra stepped forward. "You saved her life. She trusts you. She cried nonstop until we found you." Jack ran a hand through his hair, trying to stay calm. "I didn't do anything special. I just gave her food, warmth, anyone would have." "No," Lyra interrupted. Her voice was firm now. "Others didn't. They walked past her, soldiers, rescue teams, drones. Everyone saw her and kept going. You didn't." Jack didn't know what to say. Nia leaned against him, her little hand gripping his shirt again. Lyra's eyes softened. "She's all I have. And I'm all she has." Jack finally asked the question building in his chest. "Why did you come here? Just to say thank you?" Lyra took a breath, then slowly walked forward until she stood in front of him. Her hands trembled slightly. "No," she said. "I came to ask you for something." Jack looked at her, unsure. And then she said it. "Please, be my husband." The words hit like a blast wave. Jack stood up too fast, almost dropping Nia. "What? Wait, what are you saying?" Lyra didn't back away. Her voice didn't shake. "I know how it sounds. But where I come from, widows are not allowed to live alone with children. They think we are weak. They take our children to stronger homes. If I don't bond with a male soon, they'll take Nia away." Jack blinked. "That's insane." "It's the law," she said simply. "And worse, they see humans as unclean. If they find out she was saved by you, they might say she's tainted and reject her entirely." Jack's fists clenched. "What kind of people do that to a child?" Lyra looked away. "People who lost a war." Silence filled the room. Jack stared at her, this woman, this mother, desperate enough to offer herself to a stranger, just to keep her daughter safe. "It doesn't have to be forever," Lyra said, her voice softer now. "Just enough to protect us. Just a name on a file, nothing more." Jack looked at Nia. She had fallen asleep in his coat, curled up like a kitten. He sighed. "I'm not the marrying type." "I didn't come for love," Lyra replied. "I came for hope." Jack looked into her eyes and for the first time saw a crack in her armor. Behind all her pride and strength was a woman hanging on the edge. He spoke slowly. "If I say yes, what happens next?" "You sign a union bond. We stay here, live quietly, raise Nia together. No one questions it." Jack rubbed his face. "This is crazy." Lyra gave a tired smile. "Maybe, but everything else already is." Then she added gently, "You can still say no. We'll leave by morning." She cry, but she survive. Jack looked at the sleeping child and remembered how she hugged his leg in the ashes. Something inside him whispered, "No." She won't survive without you." He looked back at Lyra. "I'll do it," he said quietly. "But not just for her." Lyra raised her head. "Then for what?" Jack paused, because no one should beg to keep their child safe. Lyra's eyes shimmered, but she didn't cry. Instead, she nodded, like a soldier receiving an order. Nia stirred in her sleep and mumbled, "Papa." Jack felt something strange in his chest, and in that moment, the quiet cabin didn't feel so lonely anymore. The papers were signed. The system now called them bonded. But Jack didn't feel like a husband, and Lyra didn't act like a wife. They were strangers. Connected by desperation. 3 days had passed since that quiet promise by the fire. Now the three of them lived together in Jack's old metal cabin at the edge of the forest line, on the outside. It looked peaceful. A garden, a small solar fence, even a rusty chair where Jack used to sit alone for hours. But inside, it was a strange kind of silence. Not the cold, empty silence Jack once knew, but a soft, careful one. The kind people used when they didn't want to wake a sleeping child or disturb a hidden truth. Jack watched Lyra from the doorway. She moved like someone trained, every step balanced, every motion controlled. She fixed broken shelves, boiled roots for tea, and stitched a new blanket for Nia out of old rags. All without ever asking for help. But she never smiled, not once, and Jack noticed. That evening, while Nia drew pictures with a stick outside, Jack walked into the kitchen and stood across from Lyra. "You were a soldier," he said. Lyra froze. Her hands stopped moving, though the pot still boiled on the stove. "I saw the way you held that knife when the wind shook the door last night," Jack continued. "You didn't flinch. You moved like you were trained for war." Lyra didn't look at him. "I was." Jack folded his arms. "So why lie to me?" She turned around slowly, her eyes calm. But something deeper stirred behind them. Shame, anger, fear. "I didn't lie," she said. "I just didn't tell you everything." Jack didn't speak. He waited. Lyra walked to the window and stared out at Nia. "I was not just a soldier," she said quietly. "I was an elite guard. Personal protector of the High Matron herself." Jack raised an eyebrow. "That's royalty level." "Yes," she said. "Which is why, when we lost the war, I became a trophy, stripped of armor, stripped of rank. They called me spoiled goods, my child. An unwanted reminder." Jack felt something dark rise in his chest. "They didn't kill you?" he asked. "No, worse. They discarded me, my own people," she said. "We were trained to never show weakness. But I was a mother. I broke that rule." Jack leaned against the counter. "So the marriage request. It wasn't just about saving Nia?" Lyra finally looked at him. "It was about saving me too," she said. "Not just from others, but from myself." She walked past him and placed a worn data pad on the table. It showed her full record military ID, honors, even a video of her once leading an entire fleet squad. Jack watched in silence. She had been a legend. "You didn't have to hide this," he said. Lyra shook her head. "Yes, I did. If you knew who I was, you might have been afraid. Or worse, you might have respected me too much to see me as a woman, a mother, a person." Jack stared at her. "No," he said softly. "I see you now, for all of that." Lyra blinked, as if caught off guard. "You're a fighter, but also someone who begged a stranger to save her child. That doesn't make you weak, that makes you real." For a long moment, the silence in the room changed. It wasn't awkward. It wasn't heavy. It was shared. Then a voice called from outside. "Papa, look what I made." Jack turned and smiled. "Coming." He walked out, leaving Lyra alone in the room, her hands still shaking slightly. That night, as the stars glowed through the window, Lyra stood at the edge of Jack's bed. She didn't say anything. She just placed a blanket over his legs, softly, carefully, like someone learning to care. Again. Then she whispered, almost too quietly to hear, "Thank you for seeing me." Jack pretended to be asleep, but inside he wasn't resting. Something had changed between them, and tomorrow, everything would begin to feel real. The fire would crack in the stove, sending a warm glow across the small room. Jack sat at the table, trying to fix a broken radio with tools that had seen better days. Beside him sat little Nia, focused on her own serious mission, stacking smooth stones into a small tower. Her tongue peeked out as she worked, and each time her tower fell, she let out a tiny groan that made Jack smile. Lyra watched them from the kitchen. She didn't say a word, but she had never seen anything like this before, this calm, this strange peace. A human man and her daughter, acting like they had known each other for years. Her fingers gripped the wooden spoon too tightly. It took her a full minute to realize the stew had begun to boil over. Later that evening, after dinner, Jack stepped outside to get fresh air. Lyra joined him. The stars above them were clear, and the night was quiet, too quiet. They stood side by side watching the sky. "You always do that?" Jack asked. "Do what?" "Watch me like I'm going to break." Lyra looked surprised. "I wasn't watching you. You were," he said with a half smile. "It's okay. I do the same to you." She smirked for the first time in days. "Just a little. I'm used to patrol," she said. "Even now my body listens to old instincts." Jack nodded. "And what do those instincts say about me?" She looked him up and down. "That you're not a soldier." "Nope, but you've seen war. Too much." They both fell silent again. Then Jack spoke, softly. "You don't have to do everything yourself, you know." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "You clean, cook, fix leaks, chop wood, stitch clothes, all without help." "Why?" She crossed her arms. "Because it keeps me busy. Because I'm used to being useful." Jack turned to face her. "You are useful, but you're allowed to rest now." Lyra didn't answer. She just stared at him for a long moment. Then suddenly she said, "You snore." Jack blinked. "What?" "At night," she said. "Not loud, but like a grumpy animal. Nia thinks it's funny." Jack laughed. "So I'm your entertainment now?" She didn't smile this time. Instead, she asked softly, "Why haven't you asked me to leave?" Jack's smile faded. "Because you both belong here now." Lyra's face didn't change, but something in her shoulders relaxed. "Most males of my kind wouldn't accept a female like me," she said quietly. "A widow, a mother, a warrior, too much past, too many scars." Jack looked at her. "I'm not most males." That night, Lyra entered the room with a blanket as usual. But this time, she sat at the edge of Jack's bed. He was already awake. She looked down at her hands. "Do you want me to stay?" Jack didn't move. "Only if you want to." There was a pause. Then she stood up and walked to her own small sleeping mat by the window. But before lying down, she whispered into the dark, "Not tonight, but maybe soon." Jack stared at the ceiling, smiling slightly in the dark. In the morning, they worked side by side in the garden. Lyra showed Jack how to shape alien soil with her species planting tools. Jack showed her how to build a proper human-style fence. They argued, laughed, teased each other. Nia called them Mom and Dad without even thinking, and neither of them corrected her. Later that evening, as Jack repaired the heater and Lyra cooked dinner, a message alert blinked on Jack's communicator. He opened it. His eyes narrowed. Someone had filed a report. An affair on an anonymous warning. Alien female spotted with human. Potential illegal bonding. Investigation coming. Jack looked at Lyra. She was humming softly as she stirred the stew, completely unaware. His jaw tightened. The world still wanted to take her away, but this time, Jack wouldn't let it happen. Not now, not ever. The wind howled that night, sharp and cold, but inside the cabin, The warmth of family glowed like a fire. Nia was asleep, curled between two stuffed pillows on the floor. Her little mouth moved slightly in her dreams. Jack had just finished locking the door, checking the windows twice. Something had felt off all day, a prickling on the back of his neck, like eyes watching him from the woods. He told himself it was just nerves. But then, he saw it, a shadow outside the fence, still, tall. Watching. Jack froze. The figure didn't move. It just stood there, partly hidden by trees. He quietly stepped back, grabbed his old rifle from the wall, and whispered to Lyra, "We're not alone." She didn't question him. Her instincts snapped into place. In 1 second, she was at the window, eyes locked onto the dark shape outside. Then, it vanished, gone into the trees. 10 minutes later, Jack stood outside with a thermal scope, scanning the woods. Lyra stood beside him with a blade strapped to her thigh. "This isn't some wild animal," Jack said. "No," Lyra agreed. "They're watching, not attacking, waiting." Jack glanced at her. "You think it's your people?" "I don't know," she replied. "But I felt it before during the war, the silent kind of enemy. The ones who enjoy fear before the fight." The next day, a small drone appeared near the cabin, metallic, quiet, floating above their field. Jack shot it down in one shot. Lyra picked up the broken pieces and examined the markings. Her hands shook. "This is not from my world," she said. "This is human tech, black market issue. Someone hired a spy." Jack clenched his fists. "They're testing us." "Trying to gather proof." "Of what?" He looked at her. "Of us being real. A real couple. A real family. They want to see if we're faking this bond, or if they can tear it apart." That night, Nia woke up crying. Jack rushed over. Hey, it's okay." "I had a dream," she sobbed. "They took Mama. They put her in a cage. I called you, but you didn't come." Jack held her tight. "I'll always come for you." Lyra stood in the doorway watching, her face unreadable, but her hand clutched her chest like her heart couldn't take it. The following morning, Jack made a decision. "We're leaving." Lyra shook her head. "We can't run forever." "I'm not running," Jack said. "I'm preparing. If someone comes to take what's mine, I want to be ready." He pulled a dusty chest from under the floorboards. Inside was a folded human combat uniform. His old gear, grenades, a plasma pistol. A forgotten medal. Lyra stared. "You were more than a scout." Jack smirked. "I didn't want to scare you with my past." "And now?" she asked. He loaded the pistol. "Now I want them to be scared of me." That evening, while Lyra prepared food and Nia played with a ball outside, Jack built traps along the tree line, silent alarms. Energy nets. TRIPWIRES. Lyra joined him without being asked. Together, they worked like a team, no longer strangers, no longer pretending. They were building something worth protecting. That night, as the moon rose high, Jack sat on the porch with his rifle beside him. Lyra stepped out, wrapped in a scarf, holding 2 mugs of hot root tea. "You didn't sleep," she said. He took the mug and smiled. "Didn't need to. I've got something better." She sat beside him, closer than ever before. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "Regret? What?" "Letting us stay." Jack looked at her in the moonlight. "I don't regret finding you. I regret not finding you sooner." Lyra's breath caught, but she didn't speak. They sat like that for a long time, side by side in the quiet, until beep, a trap went off. Red light flashed in the trees. Jack stood instantly, rifle ready. Lyra drew her blade, and deep in the forest, a figure ran. But they weren't running away. They were circling the cabin. The night exploded with red. Jack's traps lit up, like fireworks motion. Beams blinking, alarms buzzing in sharp bursts. In the distance, the forest crackled with movement. Whoever was out there wasn't trying to sneak anymore. They were coming fast. Jack tossed his tea aside and grabbed his rifle. Get inside. Now. Lyra didn't move. Her eyes were fixed on the tree line. No, she said calmly. I've been hunted before. I won't run again. Inside the cabin, Nia woke up screaming. Papa! Jack turned. Lyra, go to her. Lock the door. Lyra hesitated for only a second, then ran back in. Jack took position behind a rock near the edge of the field. His hands were steady, his breath slow, like something ancient had woken inside him, something he hadn't felt since the war. Then they appeared, 2 figures tall, armored, moving like shadows, not human, not fully alien either. Mercenaries. Jack fired a warning shot into the air. This is private land. Leave. Now no answer. One of the figures raised a weapon. Jack didn't wait. He shot first. Inside the cabin, Lyra held Nia close. The child was shaking, tears running down her cheeks. Mama, is Papa going to die? Lyra stared at the door. Her body burned to move to fight. She was no longer a soldier, but the fire in her bones hadn't died. No, she whispered, grabbing her old blade from the wall. Because I'm going to fight beside him. Outside, Jack ducked as plasma fires zipped past him. One bolt hit the corner of the cabin, sending sparks across the garden. They're trying to draw me out. He muttered, then dashed footsteps behind him. Too late. He turned, and a tall mercenary slammed him to the ground. The rifle flew from his hand. A boot pressed against his chest. The mercenary raised his blaster. You bonded with her? The alien hissed through a metal mask. She was royal property. You broke contract law. Jack spat blood. She's not property. She's my wife. The blaster charged, then a flash of silver. A blade sliced through the air and straight into the attacker's back. The mercenary let out a scream and dropped. Lyra stood behind him, chest rising, eyes glowing with fury. She was never property. She growled. Another attacker charged from the side. Lyra turned like lightning and threw her second blade straight into the enemy's chest. He dropped. Silenced. Only the crackling of fire from a hit tree. Jack coughed and sat up. You saved my life. Lyra pulled him up. Now we're even. They looked at the bodies. Who sent them? Jack asked. Lyra picked up one of the badges from the armored suit. Her face hardened. My clan. The House of Vara. I thought they abandoned you. They did, she said, voice cold. But now they want to punish me for surviving. Back inside, Nia ran to them, hugging them both tightly. You're both safe. You're both safe. She cried. Jack held her close while Lyra kissed her forehead. There were no words. Just warmth. Just family. Later that night, after the bodies were gone and the fires were out, Jack and Lyra sat in the cabin's doorway, again blood on their clothes, bruises on their faces. But they were alive. Jack finally said it out loud. I don't want this to be fake anymore. Lyra turned to him, surprised. He looked into her eyes. I don't want to pretend to be your husband. I want to be your husband. For real. Lyra didn't answer right away. But then, with tears in her eyes and strength in her voice, she whispered, Then, ask me properly, and I'll say yes. Jack smiled. Tomorrow he would. The sun rose slow and golden, touching the cabin roof like a quiet blessing. Smoke no longer rose from the forest. The traps were silent, the weapons locked away. For the first time in weeks there was peace. Inside the small kitchen, Lyra stood near the window, brushing Nia's hair. The little girl giggled, wiggling in the chair, kicking her feet. Lyra smiled as she braided carefully, like a mother who finally had time to enjoy her child. Outside, Jack paced near the garden. He held something in his hand, a ring. It wasn't made of gold, not even silver, just polished stone shaped by his own fingers. He had spent the early hours carving it smooth. It was simple, but it was real. Just like his feelings. Later, When the wind was gentle and Nia was napping in the hammock, Jack found Lyra sitting under the old tree beside the cabin. She looked up as he approached. "No one's chased us in 3 days," she said. "That's a new record," Jack smiled. "Let's make it a lifetime." She raised an eyebrow. "You sound confident." "I am," he said. Then paused. He knelt down in front of her. Lyra's eyes widened. "Jack?" He reached into his pocket and pulled out the ring. "It started as a deal," he said. "Then became duty, then protection. Then something I didn't expect." She said nothing, just stared. Jack took a breath. "I want to marry you, for real, not for law, not for safety, but for love." Lyra's lips parted. Her fingers trembled. "After everything, you still want me?" Jack smiled. "Because of everything. You never stopped fighting. For Nia, for yourself, for me. I don't need perfect. I just need you." Tears filled her eyes. She whispered, "Yes." He gently slid the ring onto her finger. It fit. That evening, they didn't hold a grand ceremony, but in front of the fire, with stars above and Nia twirling in a dress made from scraps, they made promises. Jack took her hand. "I promise to protect you, not just with weapons, but with my heart." Lyra nodded. "And I promise to never walk alone again." "We move together. We raise her together," Nia clapped. "Yay, Papa married Mama. Now we're a real family." They laughed, they hugged, they danced badly, softly. Together, weeks passed. The threats stopped. The watchers never returned. One day, a neighbor came by and brought fresh seeds, saying, "Heard you started a real family here. Welcome to the valley, officially." The cabin changed. More plants grew. More drawings on the walls. More laughter in the rooms. And in the quiet, between the work and the meals and the bedtime stories, love bloomed. Not forced. Not fast. But real. One night, as they watched Nia sleep, Lyra whispered, "I used to think no one would ever truly choose me again." Jack kissed her shoulder. "You were wrong." She smiled, and this time she believed it.